Hello everyone, welcome back to another stat show powered by ShotScope. Now in this particular show, we're going to be working with Mike. Now Mike is 70 plus years old. He's a member here at Churston. He's a handicap index of 21.9. And Paul has been diving into his stats. Paul's logged into his stats, had a little look at different areas of his game, and we're going to have a little look at it today and just see if there's anything in his game that we might be able to help him with and also help yourself. So if you are new to the channel and you like what you see from our videos, remember to hit that subscribe button. But let's go and have a little look at Mike's stats.
So Mike plays at Churston Golf Club.
Yeah.
He's got 15 rounds stored in this year's data.
Which is good.
Yeah, it's
That's
good.
kind of what you want.
Good.
And also what's slightly different there is everything is at Churston, is that right?
It is. So it's going to be a one-dimensional kind of stats based on that because he's not doing it on a broad amount of golf courses. It's all down around Churston. Okay. We're going to start with his average score to par, which is 20.7, which I think is very good off of a 21.9 handicap.
Okay, so he's slightly under his handicap.
It is, but you've got to remember handicaps are not based on an average.
Okay.
So to have an average score around there, that's saying that he's playing pretty good at the moment.
So my understanding is that when you do your handicap side of things, you're going to get, out of 20 rounds, 8 of those rounds are going to be used towards your handicap.
Yeah, so it's your 8 best scores out of 20.
Right, okay.
So I'd say...
So some of those then, maybe some of them, for him, maybe he's not necessarily putting in lots of cards all the time. Maybe he's just playing a lot of average, sort of fun golf. Yeah. But he's maybe keeping his fun rounds in his ShotScope numbers as well.
Quite possibly, yeah. Right. It's difficult to tell.
Yeah.
He started off really good. He's got some good numbers there with his average scores. If we look further into what he's doing on the par 3s, par 4s and par 5s, yep. He's doing very well on the par 3s. Not so good on the par 4s and par 5s. So the longer holes he's kind of struggling on. If we look into the strokes gained, this is basically highlighting that his long game is a lot worse than his short game. Okay. So he's losing shots on his long game, but he's gaining on his short game. So it's kind of balancing it out. If we then go further into this, so we'll now look into the tee shots. So this is one area of the long game. His accuracy seems to be pretty good. He's hitting 58% of fairways. Okay. And he's hitting it left 19%. He's hitting it right 22%. So that's, he's fairly accurate. Yep. Based on that. Accuracy is good. So that then leads us on to looking at his distance. His distance is an area where I think he's maybe struggling a little bit. His average performance distance, so that's basically taking out the 10% of the shortest hits and 10% of the longest hits. So his average performance distance is 162 yards off the tee. Okay.
Now, if you compare that to the average distance for a 20 handicapper, so in that range, 204 yards is the average of what you're getting. So he is down quite a bit, isn't he, from that side of it?
He is. He's down 38 yards. So
what's actually another interesting stat is when you move into the 3-wood for a 20 handicap golfer, that moves to 169 average. So his driver is actually falling into the category of like a 3-wood for the average 20 handicap golfer. Yeah. Just another stat to throw out.
Yeah, there's a definite distance issue there and a drop. And I say drop because I've looked at his 2018 stats because he's done this for 4 years. Yes. And his average drive back in 2018 was 194 yards. Okay. So he's dropping 32 yards in the last 4 years off the tee. Okay.
So that's quite a bit.
That's a lot, yeah. Okay. That's a lot to give up on the golf course. So if we then move on to his approach shots, which is the other element of the long game, the approaches are saying that 71% of his shots are coming up short. Okay. He's only missing 3% left and 1% right. 25% are hitting the green.
So his accuracy is great.
His accuracy seems good.
He's just losing out.
He's losing on distance, which could be either bad clubbing or mishits. A number of
reasons, yeah.
Those are going to be the two main reasons for that. So without seeing him play it, we wouldn't want to guess, but you know, it's certainly an area he needs to look at, because that's a big number, 71% short.
Yeah.
If we move on then to the strokes gained part of this, his approach by distance is he's very good under 100 yards. So between 50 and 100 yards, he's gaining 1.85 shots around. Okay. So that's a good area of his game. When you start getting further away, so anything over 100 yards, he's starting to, as you can see by the chart, he's starting to lose shots quite considerably. So again, it's linking to a distance problem going on there. I also looked at this in his 2018 stats, and he was a lot better over 100 yards. So from 100 yards onwards, he was excelling a lot more. So again, it's alluding to a distance drop off maybe in the last 4 years. We've looked at Mike's negatives, which is his long game. I'd now like to sort of focus on his short game, which is his positives in his game. So if we go into putting first of all, basically you can alter the stats around in here to work out what sort of handicap you would be at putting. Right. And it's definitely a strength of Mike's game, and it's coming out that he's actually putting like a 10 handicap. Wow. Okay. So it's half his handicap. He's putting light. So that's a really good stat to have there. The interesting thing, when you go deeper into the stats and you look at the spreadsheets that we look at, which are based on 10 handicapper, 5 handicapper, going up in fives basically, the jump between a 20 handicapper and a 10 handicapper, the percentages are really quite small, aren't they? It is. Once you kind of get that skill, is it an area, do you think, that lots of top players work on because of the difference in percentages being quite minimal? Is it gains? Are there massive gains to be had in putting? I think it's a bit of a grey area because according to strokes gained, putting is kind of ruled out as something that isn't massive in your scoring. But from personal experience, I know that putting can have a massive change on my score. Okay. So I think the pros do practice it a lot. But to say that somebody's gone from a 20 handicap to a 10 handicap in putting, that isn't necessarily as good a jump as going from a 20 handicap to a 10 handicap in let's say tee shots or approaches. Okay. So the gains aren't as big, but obviously it's still a good stat. It's still a positive stat, absolutely. Definitely. So if we go and have a look into now his putting per distance. So this is trying to work out where he's good from, what distances. He's basically pretty average with a 20 handicapper under 30 feet. When he gets over 30 feet, he's got a big gain. He's gaining a shot around on his longer putts. So that would tell me it's got to be distance control, reading of putts. Yeah. He's getting them in close, so he's not having any stress necessarily on his shorter putts. That's good. If we now look at the short game, which is around the greens basically. So doesn't include putting, it's around the greens category. It's the strongest part of Mike's game. Okay. He's excelling big time on this. He's somebody you wouldn't want to take on in a chipping competition. Definitely, certainly not for money. Yeah. If we look at the short game per lie, so this is the types of lies you get around the green. Okay. He's equally good out of the fairway as he's out the rough. So it's telling me he's pretty good, whether he's if he's in trouble or not in trouble. Yeah. He's pretty handy. Bunkers, not so good. He's not bad. He's playing to his 20 handicap with bunkers, but there's definitely room for improvement there. But he's holding his own with that. So some interesting stats there for Mike. I hope he will have enjoyed us going through that for him. But how would you summarise this for Mike? You know, what would you do from this point now to say, right, Mike, you need to go and work on this, or you need to go and see your coach about this side of it? How would you summarise it for him? His biggest issue, according to the stats, are it's a distance problem. Okay. And also on his approaches, he's coming up short. So whether that is because he's not able to hit it far enough, whether it's a technical issue, as in it's a mishit, or whether he's just misclubbing, don't know the answer to that. Only Mike knows that really. Yeah. But I think it's definitely highlighted that the biggest problem is his distance. Okay. And you talk about stuff like you just mentioned there of mishits and things like that. It could be clubs might be something to look at for Mike. So whether he's fitted into the correct clubs would be an area to certainly look at. Technically, like you saw there, is there any speed gains that he might be able to get, whether that's from equipment or whether that's actually from fitness and physically? technique,
can he get, and then obviously technical as well. You know, are there areas of his game that he could look at with his coach to look at gaining him some speed, some increased distance? And then also that then leads into, like you said, strike. You know, we talk about it, Lester and I talk about this a lot, is strike is king, strike rules. If you get a miss hit, you're going to see drop-offs. And is there an area of his game that, you know, again, that might lead to technical, might lead to actually clubs, could be all sorts that he could go into. Having said that, at Mike's age, we don't know physically where he's at right now with his body and health. So it could be that actually Mike is getting the most out of his game from what we're seeing.
He's definitely getting the most out of his game, short game wise.
Yeah.
And I think Mike's played for quite a number
long,
of years.
long time.
So he's got the experience there, and you don't necessarily see big drop-offs in short games as people get older. But I think obviously the distance, you know, I think from the age of 40 onwards, you start naturally losing muscle.
That's a shame. I've just turned 40.
So that's something obviously that just is part of life. You know, you're gonna, as you get older, your muscles are gonna waste away slightly. So it needs to be something that you've got to be realistic of what he's going to be able to achieve, and if he's got any injuries or anything, that's gonna hamper him as well. So
absolutely,
I think when you go to a coach with these stats, and it's definitely highlighting the distance, you need to first work out, is it possible to increase that? You know, could it be an equipment issue? Is it a physical problem that's actually limited as he's at where he is? You know?
But to see the drop off over 4 years, you know, that's a big drop. It's there, quite isn't it? Going from what I would say is the average of a 20 handicap golfer from a distance off the tee to now losing himself back at least 30 yards, which is, we say a club because it's gone from a driver to kind of a 3-wood, but realistically there's probably a drop of like 3 clubs there.
That's probably a 3-club drop for Mike.
Yeah.
Based on how far he hits it.
Yeah. And it might be a common thing. You know, you might see that when you get to people that move into their 70s. You might start to see. I mean, just being in the pro shop myself, listening to the conversations, having lessons with older members of the club, one of the biggest things that they talk about is that they've lost yardage. So it might be that Mike is actually getting the best out of his game, of which he probably needs a pat on the back and say, well done for what he's been doing.
I think his stats look like he's optimising what he's got to work with at the moment, definitely.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. Obviously, we've just gone into detail of what actually is happening within Mike's game. I think there's probably a few things that people might actually look at and go, oh, wow, I didn't really expect to see that. I was expecting to see maybe drop off somewhere else. But we'd like to hear down in the comments of what you thought about that video. Is there any areas there in what you saw from the stats that are similar to what you're getting in your games? We'd like to hear down there. Don't forget, if you are new to the channel and you like what you're seeing, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. And Paul, thank you very much for all your time in spending on Mike's game.
No problem.
We'll see you all again in the next show.